responsible for Carr. This is a guy that traded Khalil Mack. This is a guy that has bloviated about Derek Carr is everything to us. Now, obviously, he wasn't the man that paid Derek Carr $125 million, but clearly he's given every indication that it's something that he would support. And I'm not sitting there and dismissing Derek Carr as being a quality quarterback in the National Football League. A couple of years ago, I thought he was an MVP candidate. Clearly not the case last year, and certainly not the case thus far this season. But I think when you look at him right now, he's had games where he struggled this year. And when you look at it from that perspective, I think that if you're Jon Gruden, if you were just as hard on him, not to say that he hasn't been, because I thought he was right with what he said yesterday. You got to make a better decision than that. But what the hell are you doing making that call? Why are you making that call for Derek Carr to look to throw the football? Well, we thought we was going to have an open receiver. Really? Since when? Since when? Why did you think that? That close to the goal line, why would you make that call? You Marshawn Lynch, you take off your helmet, you go to the sideline. Why? Because it's reminiscent of what happened to you when you were playing with the Seattle Seahawks and Pete Carroll and Darrell Bevell elected to have Russell Wilson basically do the same thing instead of giving Marshawn Lynch the ball near the goal line. These are the kind of things that you would notice, particularly if you're somebody as astute of a football mind as Jon Gruden. So to make that call, you just sit there and shake your head and you're like, really? I look at Jon Gruden. I'm sorry. Anything that happens with the Raiders right now, I look at Jon Gruden because it's all about him. Now, there's a couple of things we got to take into consideration. Number one, you have a defense that's ranked 29th in the league, 30th in yards allowed. You rank 28th against the pass. Your defense puts you in a precarious situation because you're constantly climbing uphill, which means particularly if you're the quarterback and if you're a head coach known as an offensive guru, then it's going to apply more pressure on you to produce and to try and overcompensate, and sometimes that leads to disaster. Jon Gruden's responsible for that because he ignored the defense by letting go. I'm just saying, I'm making my case about Jon Gruden being the focal point. I understand about Derek Carr, and I'm not saying anybody's wrong about what they're seeing, but we got to take the circumstances surrounding him to come to that point. You got the 24th ranked rushing attack. Marshawn Lynch is averaging 4.3 yards a carry. How come he ain't getting the ball more?
And carrying teams on his back to the end zone.
How about giving him the damn football more so you could take some of the pressure off of Derek Carr so Derek Carr wouldn't feel the need to overcompensate? But Jon Gruden doesn't want to do that. Why? And this is where Damian and Woody will appreciate this. One of the things that we lamented at the very beginning when you decide to let go of Khalil Mack, why? Remember we asked the question right on this show? Was that about the team or was that about him? It was about him because this is my franchise and I want to move forward.
How does Gruden look after last night?
Well, he looks a bit silly. Let me say that. He looks a bit silly for a couple of reasons. Number one, you lost. Number two, you got to outscore 23-0 in the second half. Number three, your defense was obviously suspect. But here's the biggest reason why he looks foolish. One of the first things he said in the post-game conference. Well, we didn't have a pass rush. Well, duh! Why do you think you didn't have a pass rush? That might have something to do with you trading Khalil Mack. That's why you didn't have a daggone pass.
Of course, Stephen A. Smith is with us here, 20 minutes from First Take. And so when you hear Jon talking and you see the way his football team is playing, what do you make of what's going on right now in Oakland?
I think he's delusional. I think it's a joke. I think that it's been an awful, awful season. I think he started off wrong by getting rid of Khalil Mack. Now, obviously, he doesn't control everything. Jon Gruden, the Jon Gruden that we know and love, Chucky himself, and the man that was doing Monday Night Football and doing such a great job for us. Jon Gruden spent his last 6 years as an NFL coach making the playoffs twice and not winning a single playoff game. Then he goes away from the game for 10 years. So it's been 16, 17 years since we saw Jon Gruden do something of relevancy as a coach in football. You get $100 million. What's one of the biggest reasons he got that money, Max? It was because he kept himself in the mind's eye, in the public eye, as it pertained to football. And what do you rave about him? It's not just his football acumen, it's his passion. When he gets the job offer from Oakland, what did we say? It's Raider Nation. This is Raider Nation that we're talking about here, okay? So if it's Raider Nation that we're talking about, and you're talking about that passion and that fervor and everything that personifies the silver and black, back to the days of Jack Tatum, Max Kellerman, and those boys. How do you let go of the one guy that not only personifies Raider Nation, but is the kind of football that same man, Jon Gruden, spent years right on these airwaves raving about how any coach would want? It wasn't just the ability. It's the mystique that Khalil Mack had that was emblematic of everything the Raiders were supposed to be about. And I think what we're seeing right now is the residue of going away from all of that because it was about Jon Gruden, and it's costing them.
Starting with you here, Stephen A. Do you have a problem with Gruden going back to the Raiders?
Yes, I do. And I'm going to preface my comments by distancing myself from everybody at this table as well as this show. This is the opinion of Stephen A. Smith. I stand firm on it. It's mine. It's not Max Lewis, anybody else's, or ESPN. This is where I stand. I am a fan of Jon Gruden. I think he does an outstanding job for us. I'm honored to call him a colleague. And I don't like talking about my colleagues because I never do it. In blogosphere or anywhere else, I don't play that nonsense. But this is important because he's potentially the next coach for the Oakland Raiders. Jon Gruden does not deserve an ownership stake in an NFL franchise. Not unless he's coming out of pocket with his own money and investing, and they vet you and they let you in. He does not deserve to have an ownership stake in a franchise. It should not be allowed. Respect, mad respect. I wish Jon Gruden the best. If he wants this job, he deserves it. Raider Nation would be lucky to have him. But an ownership stake, hell no.